Welcome to Parenting is Final Fantasy. I'm Drew Kreisman.
And I'm Ira Kreisman.
And on this episode, we do the thing that we do on this show, except this time we do it in the same room and recording on my phone, so if the sound is a little off, sorry. But yeah, we're going to talk about parenting, and I don't know, we'll probably end up finding a way to talk about Final Fantasy. It happens.
Speaking of which, Drew, my first question is,
yes.
Did you name your child for a Final Fantasy character? Locke.
Okay. The short answer to your question is no. No, we did not do that. On the other hand,
Yes, he did do that. He absolutely did.
We did do that. Now, we went through a long process with the names, as you would think, potentially. I don't know, sometimes one just comes to you, you've always known, or, I don't know, everybody has their own thing. Katie and I went through a pretty long process of looking up names and thinking about family names and history, and in fact, his middle name is from her family history, Graham. But we decided fairly early on in the researching process, both because it's our ancestry and also to help narrow things down a bit, that we'd like it to be a Celtic name, a strong Scot-Irish name, and we also liked the idea of it being a unique name. You and I always had that.
Yeah, an uncommon name is Ira.
Yeah, and I didn't always appreciate that as a kid. I grew to appreciate having a unique name and not being, not that there's anything wrong with these names, but I went to school with a lot of Johns and Davids.
Right. Yeah.
And I was like, hey, cool. I'm the only Drew in my class of 400 whatever kids. I kind of wanted that for Lachlan as well. And so then it was honestly a lot of just like Google searching like Celtic names.
Sure.
Looking through long lists of things. And we had several other potential favorites, but we also did approach it some other ways. We thought about names from fiction that we like, so we ran through. Her favorite fiction is probably Lord of the Rings.
Gandalf would have been pretty good.
So everything was on the table. We would say stuff out loud and sometimes laugh at each other about the possible silliness of naming our son Bilbo, or anything like that. And of course, you run through Final Fantasy names in the same way, and you giggle at, let's name him Sephiroth. Okay, we're obviously not going to do that. But there were a few from the Final Fantasy angle that we liked. And in fact, before we knew the gender of the child, Freya was a name that
that's a nice name.
were considering, or even the full Luna Freya. Mm-hmm. 15 being my wife's favorite Final Fantasy, and that also just being a beautiful name. But another name that we had considered, because it has both Celtic history and Final Fantasy history, was Edgar.
Ooh, yeah. Edgar's a good name.
It's a good, strong name. It's a unique name. I did mention that maybe not the Final Fantasy character I most want to pull upon to name my child after. But when we ended up seeing the name Lachlan and just coming upon it in one of our many searches and deciding, and she fell in love with it right away. There were a couple others I was more into. And so I think the roundabout answer to your question, she did mention, for short, we can call him Locke. I went, hey, that's pretty cool. And Final Fantasy VI being the first one we really, really fell in love with. Locke being one of the first characters that you meet in that game. And I was just like, so I think we already loved the name. It was already like a finalist. And then when she said that to me, I went, okay, that maybe seals the deal. Okay. So no, he's not named after Locke Cole, treasure hunter.
Right.
Of Final Fantasy
You're not raising a thief, that's for darn sure.
No. Dear me, no. A rebel, though.
Smasher of empires.
Indeed. But I do love that. And another thing that I love is that our mother, who isn't always the biggest fan of shortening names or nicknames or whatever, she's always been more of a, your name is, unless someone gives you permission, their name is their name, be very respectful. But we do it all the time, and she started calling him Locke, and it feels natural. It feels good. It's a cool, good shortening of it. So I like that. It's a versatile name.
There's also worth noting that the back half of Lachlan is almost Anne.
Yeah, right. And so Anne, which is a family name on our side, it's our mother's middle name, and my middle name, although it's the male version of it, which is Ian.
Sure.
Spelled with a Y in there and stuff. It's very Irish. Yeah. So if we had a girl, that was going to be a part of her name as well. But getting Lachlan in there, yeah. Lachlan, yeah.
So I've always thought you were mostly pretty clever.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I have noticed, I don't know if there's a bias here because it is expected, but it seems to me that your dad joke skill has leveled up. Do you feel more clever? Or does it, is it a feeling or is it real? I guess is what I'm saying.
First of all, are dad jokes clever or?
Well, they are observational and they're usually pretty quick.
True.
It's a play on words and it's usually pretty quick. I think that does count as clever as far as it goes.
Fair enough. I definitely feel punnier. Just generally, yeah, it's kind of funny, right? There is a sense of anything that you can say or do to make your baby laugh is totally okay.
Yeah.
Whereas beforehand, maybe you're like, that's silly, that's dumb, that's not funny, or whatever, right? And now it's like, so he obviously doesn't get wordplay.
Sure. Not yet.
Just yet. The poor thing is going to be surrounded by it. But yeah, I do find myself already feeling right at home with random dad jokes just for fun. Or it maybe has something to do with the way the often tired brain makes connections. You hear two words that kind of sound similar and you make a joke because that's all the energy you've got. You know, I don't know what it is, but I think it's a real thing.
Sure.
But it is fun to have a target audience that doesn't know anything yet. It's like he laughs at all my jokes.
Yeah. And I really am appreciative of wordplay. I do groan more at puns. It depends on who's making it and whether or not I've heard it before, I guess.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think like you said, he will be surrounded by
right
wordplay.
I at least try to make them original. Like I really try to stretch with them. I wish I could think of a good example, but
well, and sometimes though it's just about the sound and the rhythm. What is Lachlan's favorite phrase right now?
Galapagos Archipelago.
That's the one.
It's just a collection of sounds. I said that to him at his therapy session. He just has to get his neck stretched out a little bit.
Sure, as one does.
Yeah, right. And we were trying to get him to look a direction, and I knew if I said it would work. And the physical therapist looks at me and goes, "What did you just say?" I said, "Galapagos Archipelago." It's just a collection of sounds that I like and that he also likes.
Dad used to say, just for fun, agriculture. Just because he liked the sound of it.
Whenever I asked Dad what my first word was, he always said Albuquerque. Right?
Oh,
it's exactly the kind of...
Oh, God.
Yeah.
All right, good.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Got to pass that on to somebody. Poor kid. He's going to inherit all that, too.
All right, I got one more question for you.
Excellent.
A couple days ago at Mom's house, I watched you pick up your baby, stick your nose right in his butt, and take a big old sniff.
Yeah, sure.
So the first part of this question is, why did you do that?
Well, sometimes my son has particularly potent excretions of gaseous odor from his bottom.
Flatulence, if you like. God, he's a farty baby.
He is a farty baby. And I've heard other parents say, trust your nose. If it smells like they poop their diaper, they poop their diaper. Go in, get them, change them. But we have had so many false alarms in our 7 months with this kid. Both Katie and I have been in that situation. It's like, oh, he smells like he definitely. I was like, nope, it's just hanging around.
Oh, no.
He has got a potent gaseous ability.
Oh, God.
Not unlike a Mega Man X villain of some kind.
Sure, yeah.
And so sometimes you really got to get in there and determine the difference between It's like, because it's a whole process. Like, am I going to take off his, especially if he's happy and comfortable? It's like, am I going to upset my baby checking his diaper, get down there and find out it's totally dry? He just farted at me, and now we've all gone through thing.
Way too big a deal of it.
Yeah.
All right. So the actual question is here.
Sure.
Now that you are a father, what is the grossest thing you've done as a father?
That's an interesting question. We were kind of talking last time about how sometimes you just leave a certain amount of spit up on yourself, which is pretty gross. I mean, diaper blowouts are definitely a thing. You know, I've mostly been fine with diaper change. The average diaper change is not that bad. And I am the person, we've talked a little bit about some of the non-traditional stuff. I do most of the diaper changes because I'm mostly home. And it's one of the things that I can do. And they're not that hard. They're really not that bad if everything stays on the inside while he's doing his business.
Sure. Okay.
But there have been some times where you go down there and it's already up his back and on his onesie. Yeah. And then it's like kind of in the bassinet where you're trying to change him. And then he starts kicking around and having a good old time. Now it's on his leg. And you're trying to hold him upside down by his leg and wipe him off. And he's making more of a mess and it's getting everywhere. It's getting all over your hands, all over his back. And you're just like, so stuff like that. Hey, look. I believe the question was.
Yes.
Was I not supposed to describe?
No, here's the thing.
Yeah.
I just want to be clear that I made the right choice.
Right. Yeah. It is in those moments where you go, wow, we are making an absolute mess of things. There have been some close calls. He's only peed on me a couple of times, and that, real quickly you cover it up, you wash your hands.
Sure.
That's not so bad, but a couple of rougher ones with the blowouts. We've had a couple of, as you've noticed, he can be a spitty baby.
Yeah.
He's spitting mom's wine glass.
He spit mom's wine glass yesterday. Oh no! Oh God!
And he has nearly, but not yet, spit into my mouth.
Okay, so when I hold him, I usually hold him face out.
Yeah.
And I keep saying it so he can see the world and I can be his gondola.
Right.
The real reason is I don't want him to spit in my mouth.
right on your face. I mean, he spit in my face many times. But
but not in the mouth.
Not into the mouth. There was one time I was like laying on the bed and holding him up, kind of Superman style. And we had a close encounter of the spit kind. But my reflexes are fantastic. So, believe it or not, I know how to shut my mouth.
And you do not hurl the baby across the room.
Yeah, that's actually the real trick, is making sure you don't fling that little kid while you're trying to get his spitty, poopy little kid off of you. But I would actually say, by and large, it hasn't been that gross. There are moments where you're like, okay, yeah. But 80 to 90% of the time, being a dad for me hasn't been particularly gross. But there are those moments.
Yeah.
That's it for this one. See you next time.